In this video we're going to look at how different applications using the deep learning accelerator in the Axis cameras affects each other. So I have here M4308 panoramic camera with an ARPEX-7 chip and a DLPU, more specifically the Google Edge TPU. And what we're going to do now is to try 3 different applications running at the same time that are all using the Edge TPU. So the applications we will be using is the Axis Object Analytics, which is included in the cameras. And this one is using the DLPUs in the cameras that has a DLPU. We also have the face detect application from us. And we have the video Larod example from the Axis computer vision SDK3 examples page. So this one uses an image classifier, this one uses an image detector, and this one uses at least one detector model, probably 2, one for vehicles and one for persons. So the first thing I'm going to do is to start a face detection model. So now we have one model that is running and using the DLPU in the camera using the Larod interface. So if we look in the log messages here, we can see that we are running at a frame rate of 25 frames per second, which is the maximum that this camera can deliver. So we are actually saturating the video capture. We are not bottled by the deep learning processing unit. So now I turn this off again, and I start this video Larod example. I have modified it slightly to show the average frame rate, just like our face detect application. So if we look at this one, we can see that we have an average frame rate of 25 frames per second here too. This one is also saturating the video capture. And we can see also that the actual model inference is taking 10 milliseconds. And we could see the same on the face detect application, where we have an inference time of 13 milliseconds. So let's now stop this again to reset the average frame rate count, and we start both applications at the same time and see what happens to the frame rate. So the first thing that we should note is that we can actually use both applications at the same time, even though both of them want to use the DLPU in the camera, and there is only one DLPU since it's a hardware component. So we can now see that the inference is up to 16 milliseconds, despite the model being the same. So this means that we have been scheduled in the DLPU. We don't have full access to the DLPU, but when we make an inference request, it will be scheduled, and when the DLPU is free, we will get our inference request handled. But we can see that the frame rate is still 25 frames per second, which makes sense with a 16 millisecond inference time. And looking in the face detect application, we can see that we have an inference time that is now 30 milliseconds, but we are still going at 25 frames per second, which also makes sense with a 30 millisecond inference time. So let's now start the Axis Object Analytics, and I have already configured this one to run a scenario with both humans and vehicles, which I think is the configuration that maximizes the impact on the DLPU. So let's now restart these 2 applications to reset the frame count, or the average FPS count. So let's see, so both applications are running, and give them some time to actually aggregate the times. So now we can see that we have a frame rate that is only 9.3 frames per second for the video Larod example. And we have an inference time that is around 40, 74, 63, so around 40 to 80 milliseconds inference time compared to the 8 milliseconds that we have from the beginning. And if we check the face detect application, we can see that it's similar for this one. It is down to 11.6 frames per second, and the inference time is around 60, 74, 81, I think I saw 90 something somewhere here. So we can see that the applications are competing against each other, and the Larod API that we use to make the inference requests will take care of these multiple clients and schedule the DLPU in between them. So that means that the camera makes sure that applications can run at the same time even if they want to use the same DLPU hardware, but they will be limited in the processing power they can get from the DLPU. They will get longer wait times each time they want to make an inference request if we have multiple applications running. So this is something you need to be aware of, both as an ACAP developer, that this can happen, but also as a camera administrator you need to understand that if you install multiple applications using the same DLPU hardware, then they will affect each other. And of course, even if they are just using the CPU, the situation is exactly the same there, that they will compete against each other to get the CPU or memory they need.